handed it off. Good evening.
Yeah, we just grab some.
Our apologies for arriving late this evening. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all members are present. I need an approval of the agenda that was just passed out.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Okay. We also have before you minutes from our audit committee meeting on September 21st, our Board of Ed meeting on an executive session for September 21st, and a special meeting from October 21st. Any modifications, corrections? Okay, then a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, we move to our first public comment session. Ask to approach the microphone and give your name and address so we can get back to you if we need to. No? Okay. We will turn it over to Dr. Hicks for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Bloss. Today on the superintendent's report, we have our curriculum coordinator, Kristen Overholt, who's going to provide a brief description of AIS in the middle school and the high school. You're on, Kristen.
Thank you, Dr. Hicks. Good evening. Tonight I will be providing an overview of the academic intervention services at Clarence Middle School and Clarence High School. Starting with Clarence High School. Currently at the high school, our RTI team meets to discuss state assessment, report card grades, attendance, and discipline records. The RTI committee consists of building administrators, counselors, our school psychologists, as well as teachers. This year, we have implemented 2 labs for intervention, a writing lab and an algebra lab. We currently utilize 2 systems for intervention at the high school. The first is the new writing and algebra labs, and the second is the progress monitoring system where the RTI team assessments and report cards. Teacher recommendations are also submitted to the committee. When a student is recommended to the committee, the recommending teacher presents the data supporting the request to the RTI team. This is currently the students assigned to those interventions. Currently in 9th grade, we have 34 students enrolled in the math lab. We have 12 students enrolled in the math lab in grades 10 through 12. We have 65 students that are currently progress monitored by the RTI team. For writing lab, in grade 9, we have 13 students enrolled. In grades 10 through 12, we have 4 students enrolled. And currently, we have 73 students being progress monitored in English. The RTI team reviews the data for each of the students assigned in those interventions every 5 weeks. And again, at this time, the RTI team also solicits feedback from the teachers. At the high school, in addition to these 2 interventions, we also have a learning center and we have a tutoring lab, and that is overseen by core teachers, where students go during their free periods to get additional assistance. At our middle school, currently we have a math AIS and ELA in math AIS classes, and it really works on a 3-core system. We have quarterly classes, we have a year-long class that meets on an every other day basis, and then we have a push-in model where the AIS teacher enters the classroom to give additional assistance. We currently have 73 students receiving math services and 75 students receiving ELA services. These, again, are provided to students in grades 6 through 8. In addition to AIS, we also have a morning and afternoon learning center. The morning learning center opens at 8 a.m. and it's available to students until 8:35. We currently have 4 teachers that are staffed in the morning learning center to give additional assistance to students. The afternoon learning center is open from Monday through Thursday from 3:35 to 4:35 p.m. It is staffed by a math teacher in addition to the 2 AIS teachers. Again, the Learning Center is another intervention for students that are unable to get assistance during the school day. They can either come before school or after school to get additional help. This year, we also have an additional AIS support that is provided by our special education teachers. This has allowed us to, again, give additional assistance during multiple blocks of time throughout the day to students that are struggling in their coursework. We've also continued at the middle school a partnership through the hard work of Principal Mr. Moore. We have approximately, Mr. Moore, do you happen to know offhand number of tutors coming in this year?
There aren't that many, 4 or 5, but they're able to they're required through their program to contribute 30 hours of time to the school. So all told, we're working between 120 and 150 hours just for this semester, and this year we're able to specify that they work strictly with students experiencing social studies difficulties, whereas in years gone by, they may have answered a question or two on English or math, and that always made us nervous because not so much the English, but the math perhaps. Now they can focus their attention strictly on social studies.
Thank you very much. So
Yep.
again, it's about 120 additional hours of interventions provided to students and during a social study, a study hall period specifically in the area of social studies. And lastly, we also at the middle school provide a success lunch, and this is again for students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, where during their lunch period, they can take their lunch and work with a core academic teacher, or to even just get a little quiet time to be able to get a little extra homework done prior to that evening. So it's a nice additional opportunity for students to get some assistance. And like I said, a little quiet time to be able to get some work done. So those are the academic interventions that we are currently providing at both the middle school and the high school. And at this time, I'd be happy to take any of your questions.
So I have one quick question. So you talk about both the middle school and the high school and the number of students that are participating in each. Do you see that there is kind of, in some sense, unmet demand? So are there students who, if we had the resources, they would be in these classes instead of being monitored, for example? Or is this kind of the right mix for the student population right now?
The principals took a great deal of time over the summer to really examine multiple data points. Really at this time there are varying degrees of intervention, and we think at this point the students that have been identified in these different types of intervention are appropriate. So I think based on the data we have, we're pretty well matched.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If one of the students is assigned one of these interventions,
Yes,
parents, I'm assuming the parents are notified and they're
absolutely, yes.
involved in the process.
Certainly, and we will then continue to communicate with parents. We will, at the middle school as well as the high school, have follow-up communication. Reports will go out to parents quarterly at the middle school for those students in AIS, as well as at the high school, to let parents know how students are progressing through the program.
We had one parent decline when the offer was made. We did have
Really?
one.
What do you do in that case?
Well, we respectfully disagree, but we make a notation in the child's file that, you know, something was offered and, but that it was declined. We try to, as best we can, convince the parent that this is in the best interest of their child. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily work.
Thanks, Chris.
Sometime in the spring about how the kids were doing with regard to the state testing system and with regard to passing or failing subjects as they. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mercuso for finance.
Hi, the only thing I did want to mention was the upgrade to our financial and human resources package that's going to take place in February. One of the things that we wanted to do was make the monthly financial reports a little more user-friendly for the Board of Education. There's a lot of things there that you probably don't need, and maybe a couple things that you might want to see. We were going to try to do that through November and December, but it makes sense to now wait for the upgrade to this program. Allowing custom reports and a lot of those types of things might work really well. We do have our internal auditors give us a nice template on how to streamline the many, many pages of strictly bank reconciliations that you get. So probably we'll shoot for March, if that is all right with the board, to give you a couple of models on how different the monthly reports can look.
So we'll get to see some sample
Yes.
reports? Okay. And for sure to include the budget to actual
Yes, oh, absolutely.
report, keeping that
Yes.
report, as long as everything's getting posted and accrued
Right.
all during the month. Okay. Okay.
Rick, I had a question or two for you.
Mhm.
On the Erie One BOCES audit, there was a question on the bus sales. In that it sounds like the comment was that the buses were, it says here, the buses were prepared early, so they start building the buses before the budget passed?
So what happens is every single year, usually January or February, as soon as the Board of Education authorizes that the buses can go up to vote, we send a letter with a purchase order to the bus companies to get the bus in production. What that does is it tells them exactly where we are. We're going to put it up to vote, and it is contingent on three things afterwards. It's contingent on a positive vote, it's contingent on the board accepting the vote results, and it is finally contingent on the board approving the actual bus borrowing. So all those contingencies are on that letter and purchase order. But the bus companies want to take that opportunity. They will look at the number of districts going out for buses, the types of buses, and obviously it's not like a stock item, so they do want to get things in production. They take their chance, but they probably have a pretty good history when they know so many districts are going, how many
Okay.
will go.
So there's no risk to the school district?
No,
It's
not at
on-
all.
It's all on them?
Absolutely.
Okay. It seemed that, did they change the auditor for at Erie One BOCES? There seemed to be a lot more comments on these couple.
They're actually training a couple new ladies in that department, and some of the things that are on there were things that were on there in the beginning and then taken out because they're a little less
It
important.
seemed like it was like 10 times more than
Right.
what we're used to seeing. I didn't know if that
And-
was
and I didn't
things that
mind,
got
I did tell the-
sloppy or.
I did tell the director, I don't mind seeing a lot of those things. It can't hurt from my perspective, even if it's a zip code or something like that.
I had a quick question. On the appropriation status report, when we compare it to the last fiscal year end, and thinking about the bond approved for the capital project, the appropriation report reflected the $3 million allocation from fund balance. It's not anymore. Is that typical? How should I look at that?
Yes, so you're looking at a report, an expenditure report.
Yeah, it now lists the original budget as 29.4 million, where it had 33.9 previously.
The money that we spent in the prior year is that difference.
Okay.
So It was almost exactly the 3 million, but that's what it was.
Okay, just coincidentally?
Yep.
Okay. And then secondarily, in that, we have the bus purchase, the 990,000. We now have an adjustment to that. It's a little over $1 million now. Can you elaborate?
Yes, it's a software problem. And the encumbrances from June 30th should never have been carried over. It's the 900 and I think it was 80,000 that was approved, whatever the number was approved by the voters.
984? Yeah.
Yes, is all we can spend this year.
Okay.
And that is a software glitch. We know at least in February that'll be taken
Will be
care of.
fixed. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, then I need a motion to approve F1 and F2.
So moved.
Second? Those in favor? Okay. Dr. Patak.
Thank you, Mrs. Claus. Before you have a number of items this evening, the first being requests for leaves of absence. One is a request, one is an extension of a current leave. We also have a request for reinstatement to active employment. Number of different appointments, including one administrative appointment filling a vacancy we've had for a couple of months now. And Mr. Bullwinkle is in the audience, sitting next to Mrs. Colling. We have the winter sports recommendations for approval this evening, a number of activity advisors for the high school and middle school, academic intervention services at 3 of the 4 elementary buildings. The 4th will be presented at the November Board of Education meeting. We have the instructional leadership team. We have the semi-annual salary adjustments. The first section being for people moving on, obtaining graduate degrees, in this case you're working toward a master's degree, and the remaining are for skill enhancement. Also modifications to the substitute list, one addition, and a number of deletions.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on P1 through P6?
Just one brief question. With regards to the substitutes, I mean, with that addition and so many deletions, do we have sufficient substitutes, or are we looking for?
We'd always like to have
looking for more?
additional subs, and we'll work on adding additional names at the November agenda.
Okay.
No questions. I move to approve P1 to P6.
Second? Second. All those in favor? Okay. Non-instructional.
You have a number of resignations, 2 for the purposes of retirement, a change in status, a simple increase in hours, a number of appointments, including pool monitors, teacher aide, a new position as a senior microcomputer technical support specialist, and Mr. Ranieri is also in the audience this evening. We have modifications to the substitute list, and I would just ask that you strike the last addition under bus driver. The others remain as presented.
Okay. With that modification made, any other questions on P7 through P10? A motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor? Okay. Special needs and student activities.
This month, there were 26 meetings for the Committee on Special Education and 3 for the Committee on Special Education, and it is probably one of the slower months of the year. Mostly just new kids who have entered the district who needed their IEP meetings.
Okay, and before everyone, there's also 2 addendums to
Correct.
be looked at for preschool and regular school. Anyone have any other questions, concerns? Okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second? Those in favor? Okay. Okay. Dr. Hicks, the board development policy.
Under board development, 3 items. The first is the annual field trip of the Model UN Club to Gannon University in Erie, Pennsylvania, that will take place on November 13th through the 14th. The kids pay their way. It's a traditional trip, and we're recommending that the board approve it.
Okay, motion to approve?
Motion to approve number 1.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor? Okay.
Second, the board has been working on goals from the summer up until this particular month. There's the most recent draft that the board has at the table, and I'm asking that the board adopt these particular goals, which we will post on our website for the public tomorrow.
Okay, and we've made some modifications and changes since we began working on it at our summer retreat. Did anyone have any other comments or suggestions or proposed changes? Okay, then we need a motion to approve our goals for the 2015-2016 year.
Make a motion.
Okay, and second?
Second.
Those in favor? Okay.
Third item under board development is a policy. This is a recommended policy from the Erie One BOCES Policy Services. This would constitute the first read of the policy this particular month. Then it would sit until next month for approval. The policy is on student gender identity. New York State came out with a number of different guidelines on transgender students in June and July and August. This particular policy would make us in total compliance with those regulations and laws.
Okay, so this is our first read?
Correct.
Okay, so it's for information purposes only. If anyone has any questions,
Yes.
they can direct them to Dr. Hicks.
And for the public, the proposed policy is on the website under the Board of Education packets.
Okay. So we are at our final public comment session. Again, I ask that you move to the microphones and give your name and address so we can assist you.
Hi, my name is Ellie Corcoran. It's okay. I live on Willowbrook in Clarence, and I just wanted to ask a question. I understand that with the teacher contract, it's going to increase the budget by 4.2%. Am I right on that?
No, Rick, do you want to handle that one, please?
No, it doesn't increase the budget. It increases the gross payroll for instructional salaries.
Oh, all right. Is it going to be possible to keep that increase within the cap? And if not, what other arrangements have you made? Layoffs,
our-
cuts?
Our budget would, for this particular school year, for the 15-16 school year, our budget was below the tax cap, the recommended tax cap.
Okay.
And the payment for the teacher contract is within this year's budget.
Okay, so you'll be able to keep that from now on with the cap?
Well, it's been the express desire of the board to stay within the tax cap every year that it's been in existence. My anticipation is that will include next year. But for this year, the current year that we're in, including the teacher's contract, the budget is under the cap level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Could you move to the microphone, please? Because we are recording our meetings, and in order for the question and the audio to be heard for our website, it's helpful to have everyone speak into the microphone.
What is the net cost or savings of the new teacher's contract?
Well, it's easier, Mr. Lombardo, if you come to my office and we can give you the entire cost breakdown. But Rick, do you remember from a net perspective? I don't know if we can give you that off the top of our heads right now.
Yeah, we're still calculating the effect of changes in the healthcare program. And I don't have a good number right now for the
Right.
net.
So it was a cost, correct?
Yes, certainly, there's a cost increase as a result. There's a cost increase as a result of additional pay. There's a cost savings in terms of the healthcare givebacks that were realized in the contract.
Would it be more of a savings for the district to not sign a new contract and let the Triborough Amendment kick in?
Given, and this is speculative on my point, and we can give you the exact numbers if you make an appointment and come and see Rick and me, and we're happy to walk through everything we gave to the Board of Education that details the cost out. But I'm going to say, if the question is just Triborough and the current healthcare system as it was iterated in the prior contract, then I would say probably not. That the new contract plus the healthcare savings would be less than total Triborough. But before I give you a complete 100% answer on that, I'd like to go back to the spreadsheets and meet with you.
Okay, one last question. Is there any speculation on the return for the investment of the pension fund? Last year it did pretty well at 23%.
Yeah, 18% so far this year, and their fiscal year is a little bit different.
Okay, and how do you see that affecting next year's budget?
Yeah, well, we're going to anticipate, although when we create our first draft in January, sometimes we status quo that particular number, but I think it would be a safe bet by the time we're halfway through the process that the contribution rate for the TRS system will decrease. We already know that for the ERS, that would be service employees, bus drivers, teacher aides, that is decreasing. That's a great question, and we do think it's going to come down a little bit. Perhaps not as much as this past year, but down.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Before you, our schedule of meetings and upcoming events. Our next school board meeting is November 16th, and it'll be at Sheridan Hill Elementary. We need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purposes of discussing matters regarding CTA APR negotiations.
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Okay. Okay, at this point I will adjourn our regular meeting.